Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the topic of titled as the greatness of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the previous episode, we were talking about the first call of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what he was calling for. What was the call of the Prophet? What was his invitation? He was inviting to what? We ended by mentioning this part of the hadith: do not drink al-khamr, for it is the key of every evil act. You see, if we call it intoxication, it's not enough. If we call it alcohol, it's not enough. Intoxication, it may give the meaning. But why in Arabic it's called al-khamr? You know, khamr is very close to the word that you're familiar with, the word khimar. Khimar is the covering thing for the woman, that cover the woman. So isn't the word khamr so close to the word khimar? The answer is yes. Are both talking about something covering? The answer is yes. Khimar is to cover the head, but khamr is to cover the brain. It covers the brain. That's why it's called khamr, because it covers something that you need to have always available with you. That is why I mentioned the story, which is authentically reported by the Prophet Muhammad, that the king, gave an option to one of his prisoners: either you kill, you steal, you fornicate, or you drink the khamr. Then he said to himself that this is the easiest thing. But when he drank it, he was able to do all of the other things. He killed, he stole, and he fornicated. In other words, this is the key to every evil act. So the Prophet's words, ﷺ, are so much fruitful, even though the words are very little. And this is what was the Prophet significant with. The Prophet was given the less words with the widest meaning and benefit. One came to him and said to him, "What do you call for? What is the call? What is the type of your call and invitation to people?" Then the Prophet replied and said, "I call for Allah, the one upon whom whoever had been touched by a hardship, Allah will release him from. Or if you were lost in a land and you ask him, he will return you and guide you. And if you ever have a famine and you ask him, then he will cause the growing of the land for you after it had been dry." So he's calling us to raise our needs for Allah, our Creator. This is Tawheed, monotheism. And the Prophet's da'wah was calling for the pure worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just like the way of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And he was warning people from the steps of shirk, the means of shirk. He said alayhi salatu wasalam, "I used to be prohibiting the visit of the graves on you. Now you can visit it. It reminds you of the hereafter." Narrated by Muslim. The question is, why visiting the graves was disallowed? And suddenly the Prophet said, "I used to be prohibiting visiting the graves for you. Now you can visit it, for it reminds people with the matter of the hereafter." Why is that? Because people's hearts were clinged to the graves. They used to be believing in saints, holy people. Their death became something miracle. If they're dead, you can ask them, you can seek your need from them, etc. When the Prophet realized and knew that this concept of ignorance had been terminated and disappeared among his companions, then the Prophet ﷺ returned the allowance of visiting the graves. What is the reason of this? Is to remember the hereafter, as the Prophet ﷺ said. Beautiful words we heard from the best companion of the Prophet Muhammad after the Prophet's death. When he saw the disappointment, the rage, the anger, and the sadness of the people, when after hearing the news of the Prophet's death, and that was the most horrible day for those companions ever at that day. Abu Bakr said beautiful words. He said to them, after he uncovered the face of the Prophet, the dead Prophet ﷺ, then he kissed him, then he addressed himself to the people, saying to them, whoever worship Muhammad had already dead or died. But whoever worship Allah, Allah is the living one who will never die. And he recited, a verse for them, which was very impressive to them, to the extent that they said, as if we did not hear that verse before at all. The verse says, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ. Muhammad is no more than a messenger. Many messengers that have passed away before him. If he died or got killed, will he be returning or relapsing or turning away to disbelieve after his death? Whoever does that, he won't be harming Allah the least. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be rewarding those grateful ones. So when the companions heard of this, they said, as if this was the first time we heard it. Yes, it was revealed, during the Prophet's life, but it was so impressive to them. So the Prophet returned the people to the pure concept of Tawheed, and returned people to the pure concept of visiting the graves. Because people, there used to be a great relevance between graves and people's worship to those pious people. Let me remind you here of something that Ibn Hajar, a Muslim scholar, who is the commentator of Sahih al-Bukhari, he said, وَقِصَّةُ الصَّالِحِينَ, and the issue of the righteous people, whom people in English call them saints, كانت مبتدأ عبادة قوم نوح لهذه الأصنام. The issue of the righteous people was the beginning point of, gradually worshipping the statues. It began with the graves. Firstly it used to be with the grave, and suddenly after that people said, well, let's make a symbol to the figure of those righteous people in the graves. This is how they started to worship them. So the Prophet returned people to the matter of Tawheed, to the concept of monotheism. Getting back to the matter of the Prophet's tolerance. The Prophet was so tolerant. He was described by Aisha, radiallahu anha, his wife, that he had never been given a choice between two things to be done, but he used to be selecting the easier among the two, unless there is a sin in that. Then he'll be mostly distant from that which may be easier than the first, but it contains sin. But if it's not, then the Prophet used to be taking the easier. It was described by his server, Anas, that the hand of Anas had never touched a softer hand ever than the hand of the Prophet. He did not even touch a silk softer than the hand of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet used to be known with his, very much known, with his tolerance. Even Anas himself mentioned that, he told us that he'd been working for the Prophet for something like 10 years. The Prophet never said to him about something that he did not do, why didn't you do? Or something else that he did. He did not say to him, why did you do it? That means 10 years he used to be working for the Prophet. No blame that ever came from the Prophet towards Anas radiallahu anhu. So you can imagine how great was that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was also encouraging people to be tolerant. He asked Allah to grant His mercy on the one who is tolerant in his dealing, in his selling, in his buying, also in taking back his right, getting his right. The Prophet was asking Allah to grant His mercy. The matter of forbearance and tolerance is much encouraged in Islam. Unlike what people describe this religion. These are, political accusations. It is not true. Let's get back to more explanation regarding this issue, the greatness of the Prophet ﷺ. Be with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.